and raise money and awareness for them. Our main goal is just to be one big community because we are stronger together and we battle as one. And so here is Emily. She is going to introduce the Big O Foundation.
Hi guys.
Thanks everybody for coming.
This is Joe Skelly, Heather Eastman, and Amy, and they're going to speak on behalf of the Big O Foundation.
You know, I look out at this audience and I see a lot of faces, and I could tell a lot of stories about my son in relation to all the memories that you guys bring to us. I got about 30 minutes of material. I got 20 minutes to get this done, so I'm going to get after it here. Good afternoon, and it's great to be here today with all of you. My name is Joe Skelly. And today I'm joined by my friends Amy Barnachek, Katie Eldridge, and Heather Eastman. They're all three members of the Big O Foundation, a foundation started to serve and support children, teenagers, and families that are facing mental health challenges. We share Owen's story to spread mental health education, draw our community together, and support the welfare of local youth. Our resources are used to keep Owen's light shining by giving back to the community and spreading awareness about mental health, mental illness, and suicide. I'd like to thank the Difference Makers Club for the invite today. The Difference Makers is a club at Liberty High School that provides financial and emotional support to kids and their families. You all are doing great work. I very much appreciate your efforts, your message, and the invitation to speak today. You know, one side thing. I watched this past summer as softball teams and baseball teams across Iowa, not just here at Liberty, but all across Iowa, hold moments of silence and tributes to Owen. I watched the Liberty football team running onto the field with the OS-14 flag waving proudly. I want to thank you all for those tributes as well. We had a question box in the office that if somebody had any questions, they could drop the question in that box, and it would be completely anonymous. As of this morning, we didn't have any, and that's fine, because after I'm done talking today, I'm more than willing. I'd like to stay around and stay here and talk if anybody wants to talk or has any questions. I'm married to my wife, Jennifer. I have 3 kids. Boyd is the oldest, Owen is the middle, and Stella is the youngest, along with 2 small dogs, Daisy and Donald. Donald was Owen's favorite, and for some odd reason, he called him Aaron. Don't know where that came from. When I was asked if I wanted to talk, I initially thought, how can I talk for 20 minutes without crying for 19 of it? The last time I was on stage up here, that's what happened. I want to talk to you today about my son, Owen Skelly's life, not his death. I don't want my time with you today to be consumed with sadness for any of us. In fact, I'm going to do my best to put a smile on your face, hopefully make you laugh a little. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now before I begin, there are certain things I'm good at, and there are certain things I'm not good at. Being up here is something I'm not good at. But you put me in front of an all-you-can-eat lunch buffet, and I can shine like a brand new penny. That was supposed to be funny. I was supposed to talk about it. I originally typed up a speech, and after reading it through a couple times, I shredded it. I tried to put together a format of my speech that would make my son Owen proud of me. So my second attempt was going to be more lit, bustin', and for real. I suppose my words weren't designed for post-high school peeps. My kids would roll their eyes when I used those words, but it didn't matter. I enjoyed embarrassing them and myself. I want to take you back about 25 years and tell you about some struggles I had. About 25 years ago, I'm going to shorten this 10-minute story into about 30 seconds. Some friends and I were out one night, and I was in a truck with some friends, and we had some other friends in a car behind us. By the end of the night, 2 of my friends had passed away. I was a pallbearer at their funeral, and their funeral services were a few hours apart. That was a big, big loss in my life up to that point. April of '97. March of 2003, 6 years later, my dad had fought cancer for 10 years. He was my best friend and my best man at my wedding. He lost his battle to cancer. That was the next big hurdle, the big struggle in my life up to that point. We all have struggles, heartaches, losses, embarrassing times, life's not fair moments. We all fall down and sometimes may not know how to get back up. Life is full of setbacks and losses. I don't want to upset any of your teachers, but I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to tell you the textbooks are important, the classroom is important, the homework's important, but from my point of view, and it's happened to me over and over, I've done most of my learning by losing. My biggest loss was 7 months ago when my son passed away. Okay, my son was walking, mostly, probably running in these hallways up until 7 months ago, throwing spitwads, I'm guessing. God, who knows what he was doing, but he was having fun, he was living life. He lived an awesome, fun-filled, humble life for 15 years. If he could live anywhere, it would be in right field of a baseball field. He spent a good deal of time joking around with anybody he was surrounded by and working diligently to improve his athletic abilities at baseball and football. And he loved competing shoulder to shoulder with his buddies. He had motivational speakers and Bible scripts on his phone that he would refer to. We hear stories of him chatting with classmates who may not get much attention and acknowledging them passing in the hallway. Sometimes just a simple hello and smile is all something is needed for that moment. He mentioned he was interested in pursuing psychology as a career. Since he passed away, my wife and I have talked about that, and we believe he probably became more interested in something like that because he wanted to fix himself. He was a thinker and always cared how others were doing and what could be done to put a smile on their faces. Recently, I was chatting with one of Owen's friends, and he had many, and I said, Owen just wasn't thinking. I was having a down moment and talking to him in our kitchen. I said, Owen just wasn't thinking. He corrected me and said, Joe, Owen did too much thinking. His mind never stopped. He was always thinking. And his friend was absolutely right. Owen did way too much thinking. I don't know if you've ever flown on an airplane, but before the plane takes off, they do a pre-flight check and instructions, and the flight attendant in the aisle says, okay, when we're at high altitude, if the cabin pressure ever drops, there's going to be oxygen masks that fall from the ceiling. And they always tell you, put that oxygen mask on you first, on yourself first, and then help the person next to you and help everybody else. I'm sharing that because that resembles Owen's life. When there were struggles, Owen would assist with getting masks on everyone else first. Owen should have put his own well-being and mental issues as a top priority. The point I'm trying to make is you can achieve success and help others if you first take care of yourself. I'm going to tell a funny story so you guys can help me here. One of my favorite stories that I like to tell about Owen is This first part isn't funny. He got in a little car, fender bender, backing out of the driveway. He was fine, his buddy was fine. But he came home, and he was upset, and I was like, hey, don't worry about it, it's insured, and blah, blah. And after a couple weeks passed, I said, Owen, if you could drive any vehicle, you're 15 years old, if you could drive any vehicle at school, what would it be? And his response was quick. He said he wanted a semi. He wanted to drive a semi. I said, Owen, you can't do that. The principal will be all over my case. Right? You can't get a semi. But then you also want a trailer with all your buddies around. You can't do all that. Crickets. These are my funny jokes. I have lots of other stories too. And one other story I want to share about Owen is he has a buddy up north, 15 miles north, that goes to Prairie. And one day Owen was hanging around with the baseball diamonds up at Prairie, and there was a baseball game going on. And Owen somehow managed to get in the dugout of that team. He wasn't even playing that day, but he got in the dugout. And one of his buddies was getting ready to go up to bat. And there were some girls lined up on the fence, and Owen said to his friend, hey, whatever you do, don't strike out. There's just some girls watching. It'll be embarrassing. And so the kid goes up there, strikes out, comes back, throws his bat, and he sits down next to Owen, and Owen's like, okay, do you want me to give you lessons on hitting or women? There are a lot of good in this world, regardless of what the news and media portray. We can't use the garbage on TV as measuring tools for the honest, heartfelt, caring community which we live in. There are a lot of great, caring people in our community and across the state. My family knows many of them, but losing my son opened the door to meeting many more. Owen cared about others and putting a smile on their faces first, but failed to put one on himself first. We hear stories of the things he would do to brighten other people's lives. His younger sister, who's here today, his younger sister would never tell him no. Owen would yell from the basement. He'd yell, Stella, make me 8 scrambled eggs and start my Jeep. And she would never tell him no. His older brother, Boyd, was there to play catch in the street, hit the batting cages, seek advice from each other. Heck, there's been plenty of decisions Boyd has made, his older brother, Boyd, made. And it was Owen that told him how to fix it. His younger brother, Owen, told him how to fix it. His mother kept his schedule, made sure he was where he needed to be at all times, provided everything he needed any time, day or night. I am extremely proud of Owen. Owen and I spent a lot of quality time together, and he laughed at my lame dad jokes. I think he would tell his friends when they come to our house, before they came to the house, I think he would tell his friends, hey, help me out. If my dad says something, just laugh at it. It ain't funny, but just do it. Just do me a favor and do it. And they would go along, and sure enough, they would laugh at it. Owen would text and call me regularly and say, Dad, if you ever need anybody to talk to, let me know. And I would offer the same back. That may have been one of the signs I missed. I thought he was just being special, but little did I know he needed the help. I get upset at times and I just want to yell at him for not making the signs more obvious. Unfortunately, one of the bad traits he got from me was trying to do so much on his own and unwilling to accept help from others. That's me. Owen attempted to manage his thoughts on his own. He mentioned in his 10-page letter that he left behind for us that his main goal was to not let anyone find out that he was struggling inside. I would hear stories of Owen doing something to make others laugh, smile, showed he cared by asking, you doing okay? And do you need any help with anything? From the outside, Owen was moving along just fine. Now, I'm not an expert at mental health, and I've never portrayed me. But I have learned that the tough part of mental illness is diagnosing it. It's invisible. It's a stigma. I learned this the hard way, the worst way. I've always told my kids, the worst thing a parent can go through is losing a child. Most of the time, mental illness is undetectable unless a person struggling speaks up, and there's no shame in speaking up. Let me ask this. Have you ever done something wrong and you feel like the right thing to do is to admit it? Have you ever lied and wanted to confess but was afraid of the consequences? Instead, you carry that cloud, that burden around, and it weighs you down. I have lied and carried around a confession, but simply didn't want to face the embarrassment, rejection, fear that I may not be trusted again. But in all honesty, once I admitted and confessed, it felt like a weight was released off me like you can't imagine, and facing the consequences was an over-fear on my part. What I'm telling you is, Owen felt like a burden to others, and he carried the illness around for no one to see and no one to suspect until he was absolutely exhausted. This was Owen's ultimate mistake. A major loss to us that we can't ignore, and we all must learn from this. What a difference it would have made for Owen and the rest of us if he confided in a close friend, family member, counselor, teacher, etc. He needed to admit the issue that he was struggling with and accept the help, confidential help, that was readily available. The first step had to be initiated by Owen and Owen alone. I've been to a grief counselor 3 times with my wife in the past couple of months. Does that make me weak? I cry several times a day thinking about memories and what Owen is missing out on. What he would be achieving if he was here. I cry. Is crying a sign of weakness? I told you I've been to a grief counselor. That counselor made a great point to Jenny, my wife, and I. And he said, kids protect their parents. You know, it's inherent that parents protect their kids. But he made a great point when he said, kids protect their parents. He made that comment after I had mentioned that over the past few years, I should have noticed something wrong. My wife and I drove away that day realizing how right he was. To put it into perspective, Owen was protecting my wife and I from his problem. He did not want us to help him battle through his issues. If you were to ask me today, what is the hardest part of dealing with this loss, I would have to say, knowing he was fighting a battle that can't be won alone. He was fighting a battle that can't be won by himself. To know he was quietly struggling. Listen, as parents, it's our job and our privilege to be that ear. However, I do understand if a young person does not feel comfortable discussing issues with their parents. I get it. If you are unsure who you can talk to at any given time, there is a new resource. The number is 988. You call 988. This is universal entry point, and no matter where you live in the U.S., anytime, day or night, 24/7, it is an emotional and confidential support line. 988 is the number. Owen had access to getting help. He would attend Bible study before school regularly. School counselors were available, teachers available, coaches available, other parents he looked up to, a lot of friends that he trusted, and he had many friends, siblings, and parents. All of these people I'm mentioning care about you like you are their own. I'll tell you this, I'm very partial and close to Owen, and he is extremely important to me. But all of you are just as important to me. I say that because we are all created equal, and we all have the opportunity to make differences. Everyone has access to help, but may feel ashamed or embarrassed to ask for it. Did you hear me admit that I've been to a counselor? I cry daily, and I've talked to a friend who is a pastor. There is zero shame to confide in a friend and admit you need to talk. Admitting is not a sign of defeat. Honestly, whomever you talk to should feel honored you came to them to talk. That speaks volume. Life is full of alternatives and options. I cannot give any justification for what Owen did. My love for him is endless, and he knew I always had his back. I just wish he would have talked to me. My wife and I don't have a lot of rules for our kids. Basically, we know you're going to screw up, just don't screw up too bad. I've also told them, don't embarrass me. That's something I don't need help with, and I do it naturally. In closing, know that you all have value. You have a role to play in this world, and I promise you the best years are ahead of you. Laugh at your mistakes, but learn from them and move forward. I personally can't get through a day without making several mistakes, but I always learn from them sometimes. That's just funny. Mistakes are expected and accepted. It takes a team to win. Very few victories are ever won alone. Be positive and kind to others. You never know what someone is dealing with. That's a quote from Owen's letter. You never know what someone else is going through. Be kind. Be a rock for others in need. Being a trusted confidant is a powerful quality and responsibility. If I could tattoo something in your mind before you leave here, I would want it to be that every day is a gift. I know you're thinking, wow, Joe, how original. No, I'm absolutely serious, guys. Look around you and take in all the goodness our community offers you. Like I have said, I have bad days where nothing is going right and feels like the world is falling apart. I was having a rough moment last Saturday, and then I looked up at the TV, and it was the end of the first quarter of the Iowa game, and I saw the wave. And to know that 70,000 people in that stadium turned into the children's hospital waving at all those kids and families that are struggling. They're going through something that most of us won't ever understand. That's amazing. Puts chills down my back and sometimes tears in my eyes. So many people take the opportunity to show their care. For you to be able to wake up, make decisions on your own, enjoy the company of others, and supporting others in need is an amazing gift that shouldn't be taken for granted. Remember, we all struggle. You're not alone. Be kind to others and take good care of yourself. Y'all have been awesome. Y'all are amazing. I appreciate all of you. Now go get straight A's. And God bless.